My favorite joke is I quit my 9 to 5 and now I work 24/7s. That is the truth of a business owner. We don't get the choice to just say, I'm off the clock. One of our employees got sick or someone had a dire emergency, like we have to respond to that. And we don't get a paycheck for that. If anything, it cuts down our...
So Tanner, for years, you've told me I should just quit my W-2 and bet on myself. And I pushed back and pushed back, and I kept my W-2 up until 6 months ago or so. Now, you kind of have a different perspective on that, and you think a W-2 is more secure than I would say I do. And we kind of argue it'll be a couple weeks between podcasts, but you mentioned that a W-2 was safe, and or you alluded to, one of the things you alluded to was that a W-2 is safe. And I completely disagree with that. But that is your philosophy that has changed. Like, if we go back 2 years, you were probably on the podcast telling me you should walk away from your W-2, you should bet on yourself. But now you've gone backwards on that. What is your stance today on that?
Yeah, no, I've completely gone backwards on that. And the thing that you mentioned last episode or 2 weeks ago episode was that people think their W-2 is safe, but Facebook just laid off 20% of their employees. And well, yeah, I mean, they just lost their job. Every software developer and every, integration specialist and all the people that they just laid off, every Silicon Valley company is going to try to hire those people because those people are employable. They have skills that they can add value to a multi-billion-dollar company, and they can go, and this person that was earning $120,000 at Facebook, I mean, whether Google gives them $100,000 salary or $150,000 salary, I mean, that's beyond me. I don't know. I don't know their internal conversations, but those people are all still employable. As soon as you make the jump and you no longer are working a W-2, no longer have that stability, like, we are unemployable now. I couldn't get a job in town at anywhere but Walmart because I've had such a gap in what I've done that they're going to see me as a risk. They've seen you've run your own businesses for whatever, 5-7 years now, or however long. I don't even know how long I've been in business, but they're going to see that as a risk to them because they're going to see, okay, I hire you, you come in, it takes you 3 months to get acclimated here. I train you, all that stuff. And then 6 months from now, you realize that you like the other side of the table where you're the boss and you're going to jump ship. And I just wasted all this time on you. And so I think that people are too quick to run to the, be your own boss and all that stuff where they miss out on their highest earning years. And if you truly want financial freedom, we talked about what is your North Star, right? If your North Star is freedom and making your own decisions, then yeah, make the jump. Do it sooner. I told you a long time ago, you're a smart guy. Like, do it sooner. But if your North Star is, I want passive income and I want all this stuff, then focus on making as much money as you can, buying investment properties, investing wisely, be a limited partner so you can learn from the guys who are doing it and all this stuff. And when that starts to pay off, then make the jump. When you're making more money from your investments, then yeah, walk away from your W-2. But I feel like people are too often encouraging to just make the jump and everything's going to be great and you'll be fine. Like, you're not going to be fine. It's going to suck for a long time and it's hard all the time. So why would you give up on your 80, 100, $150,000 a year job to pursue this life? My favorite joke is I quit my 9 to 5. I was working 4 10s and now I work 24/7s. That is the truth of a business owner. There's a very high likelihood that both of us, not one of us, both of us are going to get a phone call in the next 48 hours of something that interrupts our family plans. And we have to go respond to it. We don't get the choice to just say, I'm off the clock, I'll worry about it on Monday. No, we have to respond to it. Whether it's one of our employees got sick or, someone, someone had a dire emergency, like we have to respond to that. And we don't get a paycheck for that. If anything, it cuts down our hourly rate because for the next 48 hours, maybe I was worth $100 an hour, but when I have to go respond to things instead of playing baseball with my kids, now I'm only worth $70 an hour. And then every time that happens, my hourly rate goes down. And then eventually, I'm working for $11 an hour and barely scraping by because I'm allocating so much time to solving these problems where I probably would have been better off just staying in my W 2 and investing money so that I can get that passive income in 10 to 15 years.
So I guess you're kind of talking at it from a dollars and cents standpoint, and I don't look at it that way. I look at it as you invest something in a company, you think you're secure, you think you don't have to worry about them laying you off. You know, you think that your job is safe. That next week you're going to get a paycheck. The week after that, or 2 weeks, however you're getting paid, you're going to get a paycheck. I don't think that's the case. People don't honor your time. People don't honor your skills. And at the end of the day, it comes down to dollars and cents. If you're performing a task that I can outsource to AI, which that's what's happening with Meta, that's what started this conversation. Yes. Do you have skills? You might be making $200,000 in Meta as a whatever. And you might be employable to Google, but are you going to be making $200,000 an hour or $200,000 a year? My immediate assumption would be no. So you built a lifestyle from this $200,000 a year off from Meta, and now you have to go to Google for $150,000 or $120,000. And so you have to wholeheartedly change your whole lifestyle, you know, like just lay it bare. That's one of the struggles Valerie and I have is our lifestyles crept up, and I guarantee you so many people are in that same boat. And when you have to make those hard choices, you know, she has her notice in, she's gave like a 4 month notice, but it was in 6 weeks. She doesn't make much money. She makes about $1,500, $2,000 a month since she works part time. But now we have to figure that out. That's only $1,500, $2,000 we have to figure out. These people that are losing $50,000 a month or a year, that's a bigger, harder thing to figure out. And I guess that's where I look at it from. Are you employable? Yes. Like, I completely agree with that statement, but you are losing out on the lifestyle that you've already created. And you're at the mercy of your employer. If they can't, I was actually thinking about this today. If an employer can't make payroll because of 2 or 3 lower income producing employers or employees, they have to cut them loose because it saves the other 20, 40, 50, 100 employees that they have. And so that's really what it comes down to. If you have cancer, you don't want to have surgery to remove the cancer. Like, physically, you don't want to do it, but you know you have to save your life. And it's the same thing with employment. And so that's kind of the mindset and the framework that I look at it from.
Yeah. And I saw a post on TikTok the other day that was,
You need to get off TikTok.
well, I don't know. I get a lot. I learn more about the news from TikTok than I do from the actual news stations. But this post was basically like most people have no idea what it's like to be a business owner awake at 3 a.m. doing math to figure out, okay, if this invoice clears by this time, then I'll be able to make my payroll for this week, and then next one needs to clear by this date, and then I'll be able to pay for these materials for this. Most people have no idea what that's like. And imagine your 20 years in the military if you had to worry about how am I going to make sure that we have enough tax money coming in to pay our guys? Like, you don't have to worry about that. You just show up, you put on a damn uniform, and you do your job. And if you're smart, you invest some of that money, you buy a house, you do other things. I know in my entire 10 years in the military, I was not smart. Like I did not invest my money wisely. I had my thrift savings, which, had measly amount of money in it. I bought the stupid car that I shouldn't have at a high interest rate, or whatever. I did all the dumb things. And my point is, I wish people would capitalize on the opportunity that they have already before dreaming for something better. Because you're absolutely right. That lifestyle creep is what kills people. It doesn't matter whether they're in a W 2 or a 1099 or they're a business owner or anything. Lifestyle creep is a problem no matter what. There was a famous football player just declared bankruptcy today. I'll show you the name after. I don't remember exactly who it was, but someone who's made over $150 million in his career declared bankruptcy because of lifestyle creep. So lifestyle creep does not mean I only make 30,000. I can't, everything's expensive. You can make millions of dollars a year and still succumb to lifestyle creep. So I think that's a separate issue. But leaning into your W-2 and leveraging it, that stability of being employable and about having a skill. You mentioned earlier the AI is replacing all these jobs. Great. Find a job that services the AI. Like the people who we've talked about this before. They used to brush horses, and then when the car came, it replaced a lot of those jobs. Well, those people probably are changing tires on vehicles now. Like, you just adapt to the circumstances. But making the jump from being the person that brushes horses and gets a stable paycheck, they know if I show up, I'm getting paid. And if this guy fires me, I know it with drivers. Drivers is constant. There's so much turnover and churn with drivers. I finally found one that's actually really good. Like, communication's good. He's sticking around. But for the most part, they are the worst shiny object people. The second that they see a slightly better benefit from another company, they jump ship and they go over there. And for the bigger companies, they don't care. They know that it's the cost of doing business. Like, they're going to move. For smaller companies, like, I just lost 50% of my workforce in a month. And now I got to go find more people. I got to train them. I got to do all that stuff. And then they stay for 6 to 8 months, all that stuff. But those people, they can just jump to the next job. They have no risk. They don't care. They don't care that I got to replace a motor this month that cost me $20,000. They're like, yeah, I'll go over here. So that stability is a benefit. It is an asset that they are employable. And the people that are working a job that's going to be phased out, find another skill. Like, if you are doing a job that AI is going to replace, find something that you can improve your skill set to go increase your earning capacity.
I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier. I don't know if it was on camera or off camera, but I wish more people would embrace investing in, be it real estate, wholesaling, just buy and hold, whatever it is, a true investment strategy. Because I don't think that the stock market is a true investment strategy. I think it's
Why? What do you mean? What do you mean the stock market? Like, if someone is making $100,000 a year and they're putting $50,000 of it into the stock market, they will be far better off than someone making $1 million a year and spending $1.1 million a year.
well, yeah. I mean, for me, the number one metric, what you're talking about, is the number one metric I look at for personal finance, and it's savings rate.
Mm.
Your savings rate is, you could throw every other number out. The king metric is your savings rate. What is your savings rate? 50% versus negative 10%.
Hmm.
Yes, if you're saving 50% at anything, I don't care what it is, you're going to do fine. But most people aren't like that. So how do you increase the potential for savings rate?
I mean, either increase your earning capacity or lower your lifestyle, and that comes to discipline. And not that I'm some shining example of what to do. Like I definitely have had moments of making, $250,000 a year and spending more than that. It's very hard to do in practice. But if you are disciplined about that, your future will be better off. Like if you are constantly thinking about how can I pay my future self, it's the hardest thing to do. I'm dealing with it with my kids right now.
But that's not the American culture. The American culture,
Consumer.
I was just talking to my oldest Alyssa about this. People think, so we live in a nice house. Her mentality is the day I graduate high school or graduate college, I need to have the same house that I grew up in.
Hmm.
And that's her mentality. Is like she doesn't realize that we worked up to this. She just looks at the house that we were raised in, or she was raised in, the house she graduated high school in, and that is her standard. And we always joke about keeping up with the Joneses, but no, you're keeping up with yourself,
Hmm.
your perception of yourself. Like
Yeah, I think that's fair. And but it's also your surroundings. I mean, like we don't drive luxurious cars, right? We we drive a used both of our vehicles are used vehicles. I drive a minivan most of the time because that's the vehicle we bought to teach our kids to drive in. And that like we're trying to live within our means in that way because I've had the experience of purchasing a vehicle that's far beyond my capacity. And my kids come back, they go to a good school, and most of the kids they go to school with are probably very well off. And my daughter came back, she's 15, and she's like, "Hey, what do you think of a 2023 Range Rover?" Yeah, nice car. She's like, "So you think it'd be a good first car for me?" Nope, absolutely not. Because where I came from, I had a 1997 Honda Accord, and the heat didn't work. The windows didn't roll back up. I'd have them propped up on a stick. Like that's what I came up in. And not this like things were harder back then. It's just that's what I could afford to buy for myself. I bought that car myself, and then I took pride in that car. I never crashed that car. But you see, kids they go to school with where they're like, I remember kids I went to school with, they wrecked their car. Daddy bought them another one. Like I don't want my kids to grow up that way. I like my kids are much better off than I was at that age, but I don't want them to grow up that way. But an, they're a product of their environment, and their environment is a bunch of kids who just get that. And part of that's good, part of that's bad. But the investing side of it, people need to realize that you're not investing so that next month I can go on a lavish vacation. That's still now. Like I'm investing so that my great grandkids never have to work again. So that my grandkids have investment capital that they can build their dreams and do whatever. Like yeah, I want to have nice things and all that stuff, but I'm teaching my kids right now. Like I pay my son a commission. He helps my trucking company. He finds me loads. When he finds a load, I pay him a commission, but he doesn't get to touch that money. That money goes right into his custodial investment account, and he has to invest it. And I said, you can spend the dividends on things that you want, but you have to invest the principal. And he's frustrated. He asks me every single day, "Hey, how are my stocks doing? How much? They're up, 6% this week." I'm like, "That's phenomenal." He has no idea how great that is. He's like, "Oh, it's only up $40." $40? You went to school today. You did nothing, and you made $40 on a whatever. Like that's phenomenal. And he's like, "It's not going up fast enough." And then he has a down day, and he's frustrated. And it's just really reminding me how much that delayed gratification is so hard to attain at every level. And so if you can, like you said, lower your spending rate or increase your savings rate, your life will be better off for it in the future. And if
yeah,
I can invest $100,000 now to make $200,000 5 years in the future, You'll be better off for it.
I don't know. I don't remember the exact in Japan, their philosophy when they start a business, 10 years, I, I think this is what it is. 10 years, they plan on losing money. For the whole 10 years, they're just building a business. They're losing money. Next 10 years, they're breaking even. And then after that is where the business takes off. And that is so, I mean, I
That's
bought a
impossible.
business. I bought a business, you know, I set it up that as long as I make exactly the same thing, we'll do fine. But that wasn't my mentality. Like, we're gonna double, we're gonna triple, we're gonna quadruple in these time periods, you know, that I set out. But that's not. That's only in America, and that's where I think we go astray. Is that we're always thinking like I have to double my profits this year. Like I made $500,000 last year as a company. I need to make $1 million this year. I made $1 million last year. I'm going to make $2 million this
So,
year.
so do you think that as Americans we're out of touch with what's realistic? Like, to me, hearing I got to wait 30 years or 20 years before I see profit, like I'm not going to do it. Like, I would rather go put it all on red and hope that I double my money. I'll go out and make some more money at the work in the gas station and go try and invest it again because at least I have a better chance of making money in the next 5 years than waiting 30 years. That impatient culture, and like I said, I'm probably the worst example of that. I mean, do you think that's the biggest problem?
Absolutely, I think that is a huge problem in America. And well, I alluded to keeping up with the Joneses. You know, like we want it all, and we want it now, and it's never what we have is never good enough. I mean, goes back to biblical principles of like we're never satisfied with what we have.
Mm,
And when there's a Bible study today, and it was mentioned if you make $30,000 in America, you're in the top 1% worldwide. So think about that. Like
mm,
it's easier for a rich man to go through the camel eye of a needle or camera than a camel or no than a camel to go through the eye of the needle. I totally butchered that,
yeah, that,
but
that was a little. You're close.
yeah. But you get what I'm saying. So it's easier to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter heaven. It's basically what it says.
Hmm.
But yet we're always trying to do that. We're always chasing the next thing. We're always, and I mean, we can go on a whole Bible study just based off from that. But that is, I don't think that's the way of life. That's not what
Mm,
we're called to do. That's not what we're set up to do. You know, but yet we're always chasing that. I'm just as guilty. Like you've made fun of me for my astronomical goals for my company. You know, like, but I feel that it's possible, and so that's what I'm chasing. But I try to take a step back and why do I want to do that?
mm,
But I still think that betting on yourself. I made this comment 20, 30 episodes ago. I do not think it's biblical to have a W-2. I don't think
mm,
that the Bible. There is no good examples in the Bible of people with a job.
mm,
The only people in there with a job are the tax collectors, the prostitutes, the military. Like no one in the Bible had a job. They were all solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. There
mm,
were tent makers. There were uh, sheep herders. They were fishers. They were carpenters. They all had some kind of job. And I don't know that working for somebody ultimately does much for you. That's I don't know.
mm. Yeah, I guess I never considered it from that perspective. I think for me, like I said earlier, if your North Star is providing the best circumstances for your family or providing passive income or any of those things, I don't think that making the jump from your stable W-2 where you at least have steady income, you know that, you know, I'm getting paid on the 1st and the 15th.
Do you know? That's my argument. Do you know? You can be, you're getting a paycheck 2 weeks from now, but are you getting a paycheck 2 months from now? That's my argument.
Yeah, I mean that's it's a fair question. I think that the likelihood that your stable income will continue is higher in a W-2 than it is in entrepreneurship.
So now
Be-
you're going to a total risk standpoint,
exactly.
and I mean, I guess you can make that argument. I don't think people realize what's the statistic is 90% of businesses fail.
Mhm.
I don't think people realize how close most businesses are to failure.
Because everyone enters business with arrogance. That's the biggest problem. Is we none of us started a business because we are like, there's a 90% chance this isn't gonna work. Like, no, we all were like, I'm the 10%. I'm the one that's gonna make it work. I'm gonna make $1 billion off it. But the reality is that no, most of us fall into the 90% statistically. And statistically, I would have been better off staying in the army for another 10 years, getting my pension and riding that sweet sunset and then taking all the money that I made from that and investing it. That would have been a better option for me. And so my argument is that most people probably should stay in their W-2, invest their money wisely, live beneath their means, increase their savings rate, make their money make more money for them while it's stable. Because no, it won't always be stable. But if I started when I was an E1 in the military, investing 50% of my paycheck, by the time I reached 10 years in service, I probably would have been making more than my annual salary in the military. I mean, statistically. But I didn't. I spent it. I was dumb about it. I mean, I was an idiot, 17-year-old kid, and I bought the car I couldn't afford. I did all the wrong things. And so I wish that someone would have told me to just stay in it longer and invest my money wisely so that that money could start making me more money babies and then I could live off that because when I got out of the military, I had no security blanket. I had nothing. I'm all on my own. And when I fall into that 90 percentile of businesses that fail, I have no safety blanket. Like you came into it with a different point. I mean, you were later on in your career. You had retirement. You did the whole 20 years in the military, got your pension, had a W-2 that was stable. You made smart investments. I did it with partners because I found I had a skill set for it, but I had no safety blanket. Like I have nothing to fall back on. It's just like I'm going to make this work because I don't have a choice. And there is a part that I've been successful because my back was to the wall and I didn't have a choice but to be successful. But there's also a stupidity to it that had I been more responsible, I probably would have had more investment income before I made the jump out of the military.
And I think you bring up a great point. Like, we don't teach people to invest. We don't teach our kids to invest. And I think that's part of a generational thing from a standpoint of people were in the 20s, 40s, they lived in a different environment. Then between, I don't even know what word that is, but between that point of the
That
20s,
was the
30s, 40s,
Louisiana coming out
yeah,
in you.
the 20s, 30s, 40s, and then our parents coming up in the 50s and 60s, they were learning a different environment
No.
and they taught us different, but I don't even think they taught us well. So that's when stock market was starting to come into play and stuff like that. And they were told, live or have a W-2, get the pension, this, that, and the other. And now the pensions are gone. Like, I'm one of a dying breed with the pension, from the military.
I mean, most people don't make it that long.
No,
But I mean, how old are your parents?
my mom's 71.
Okay, so So my
She'll be
parents
71 in like 2 weeks.
my parents are 65 or 64 and 65, something like that, or 63, 64.
My dad would be, I don't know, 77 or something.
Okay. So, oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But our parents are about the same age, or were about the same age that they came up, through childhood. Their parents were taught by people that just came out of the Great Depression.
And that's my point. It was a different environment, so they were taught come out of the Great Impression. The Great Impression. I'm all over the place. Great Depression. That like you need to save, you need to do this and the other. But then it like missed us.
Hmm.
Like I don't know.
But
It's a
but did
gap.
did it miss us though? Because I mean, granted, I'm a little bit younger. I was still a kid in the 2008 crisis. So I didn't have the opportunity to buy a house. Yeah, I wish I bought, Amazon stock in 2000, but I was still learning how to read. But like my parents did the best job they could with the information they had at the time. And my dad has dual retirement now, like dual federal retirement. He worked his butt off his whole career, and there's probably most months that he's making more money than me.
I would argue that doesn't work today though. If you don't, I just had this argument with Alyssa. Maybe it was an argument, but conversation. She's like, oh, I don't want to
Do
buy it.
you do you have conversations with your kids that aren't arguments? I don't. What's that like?
I don't know. But like her mentality is, I don't want to buy a house. I'm like, if you don't buy, she just wants to look at this nice apartment because, like I said, she wants to live in a house or an apartment that's similar to what she grew up in. Like, you need to buy the crappy house. And even if you got to drive 20 minutes to work, it's better than not buying a house. And you
But
live in it for a little bit.
but why is that wrong? Why is it? I don't think that she's incorrect. And in this investor circle that we're in, we're all about like ownership and all that stuff. I can think if I did the math over the last 7 years, if I was to rent a similar house to what we live in, and I didn't have to replace a furnace, I didn't have to replace a water heater, I didn't have to do my roof, I didn't have to do all these other stupid garbage things that are necessary for home ownership, I probably would have had more money to invest. So it's not always a bad thing. I don't think that like I don't think it's like if anyone doesn't agree that home ownership is the way, that they're wrong. I think that like the right person has to go into it. And if someone can rent, like if let's say that your daughter decides to rent an apartment for the next 10 years and takes all of the extra money that she has from not having to replace her roof and do all those other stupid things and pours it into a I don't know, a book business. She wants to sell books. She will probably be better off than me, even though I have equity in my house and all that stuff, because when the carpets need to be replaced, I have to pay for that. She doesn't.
So I think where the gap comes in is she's going to get the nicest apartment that she can get, that she can afford. She's not going to save anything. She's not going to be able to afford the down payment later on. She's not going to invest in anything. So for me, it comes back to savings rate. Yes. Like, like I said, to me, that's the king rate or the king metric.
Yeah.
If your savings rate is at 50%, you can do whatever you want. But when your savings rate is at zero and you're spending everything and you're living that lifestyle that's up here, even though you're not really like, there's no long term, they only think of the now. They only think of what can I do today? What movie can I go watch? What can I go buy at Target? What can I order off from Amazon? When that is your mentality, that's where it falls short. Versus, I can spend $1,200 for a really nice apartment, or I can buy a house and my mortgage is $2,000 and I get a roommate.
Yeah.
That is, to me, that is the difference.
I mean, the best part of what you said is that it's all about the savings rate, right? Like if she's being wise with her money and what then by all means, and she's 19.
She'll be 19 in like 10 days or Roughly 10 days.
So our oldest is 20, and she is the opposite of everything that we do for a reason. So she does not want entrepreneurship. Like she did really well at Cutco sales, doing all that stuff. Like, but she
Sales
does,
is entrepreneur.
yes, but she does not want, like, she has business ideas. It's just part of the osmosis of being around us, but she doesn't want to do the real estate investing because she saw how tough it was for us. Like when she was younger, seeing how stressful it is and all that stuff, that it almost deterred her from wanting to do it. That she wants to find a different way to wealth. She's still, I mean, she's wise beyond her years because the oldest usually is, right? But she saw how stressful it was for us to try and build a real estate empire and build this sales
Is that what you
business
call
and
what you have at Empire?
empire. Absolutely. But that was the vision that we had when going into it, was that, like, we watched a YouTube video and thought that this would be easy. But she saw how she saw all the behind the scenes of it, of all the stress and all the arguments and all the deals that fell through. Every you know $2 million deal that we had under contract, that this is going to pay out and this is going to be great, and then it fell through. And she saw that and was like, I don't want any of that. Like, I'm going to find a better way. And she's found her skill sets, and I think that she'll be very good at whatever she does. But like like I said earlier, my wife and I are investing so that our grandkids are well off and our great grandkids never have to think about money again. But the likelihood that we get to reap what we sow, to the extent of all the YouTube videos, it's not likely. And there is definitely a big part of me that wishes I would have stayed in the military longer. Circumstances were different. I was getting out during COVID, and all the politics behind that is different. But I definitely wish that I had the luxury of falling back on my pension. If I would have just 10 more years, like
I
I'm
mean,
I'm I'm
for me, like I can honestly say, if it wasn't from a military pension, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And if it wasn't for the skill set that I've garnered from the military, I wouldn't be where I'm at. Like, we could do a whole podcast on. I think. I think I just recorded a Instagram video, short about this, but I think military is the greatest breeding ground for entrepreneurship, and it teaches you more than you will ever realize. And I think it's better than Harvard. I think it's better than Stanford. All these big business schools. What's the one in St. Louis? They got a good business school, but like I don't. I think the military is the greatest as far as leadership, strategic grit, all those things. And anyhow, that's a whole different subject. But I think our mentality and our way of thinking in America specifically is what hinders us and holds us back. So
yeah, no, I think it's a fair assessment. And this and every other podcast we've ever recorded is just more of a testament of, we don't have it all figured out. We're still going through the bumps and bruises, and we're still, there's always I wish I would have done this, I wish I didn't do that, and but I think that if the best advice that we could give from this episode is increase your savings rate, invest your money wisely, develop your skills, and maximize your earning capacity. And if you can maximize your earning capacity, increase your savings rate, and invest that money wisely, whatever that investment is, I'm an advocate for real estate investments. But even if you are investing 50% of your income, 70%, 80%, go crazy. Find a way, and this is Dave Ramsey, maximize your investment dollars. You will be better off for it tomorrow than the joy that you feel from spending that money today.
I don't know. I like spending money myself. So, but no, I do agree. Like savings rate. If I had a sword to die on, it would be savings rate. And how much can you save? How much can you reinvest? How can you grow yourself, grow your family, and give, what's the proverb? A wise man gives. I'm a butcher it, but wise man gives to his children's children. So
Yep.
it's talking generationally. Like how do you give generationally? And I go back to savings rate. That is the number one thing. Like this. That's what the title should be. What is your savings rate?
Mm.
Like
I mean, honestly, we could probably do a whole nother podcast about estate planning and the things we're learning about it. Because the more that goes on, like my entire life, I thought that when you die, you just leave a will. And now I'm learning more about trusts, and I'm like, why would anyone ever do a will again? Like that is the dumbest thing. And
the will doesn't protect anything.
no, and just seeing family members that just get at each other's throats over a few $1,000s and tear families apart over nothing, over peanuts. It's like I'd rather leave something that's structured for my kids. And so maybe the next episode we'll go deeper into trust planning and estate
Yeah, I,
planning.
I could mention family and stuff like that. And like I said, my dad passed away about 13 years ago, but he had a horrible will. And basically, what he intended to leave us in the will was zero. At the end of the day,
I,
I mean, it just for transparency's sake, like he had decent assets, if you will, but he intended to leave us being me and my sister, something to help us out. And the way it was worded and the way the will was written and the way the assets were tied up and all that stuff, it turned out to be $10,000.
mm.
So, but it's bad estate planning. So,
Well, I think that's a good cliffhanger for the next episode.
yeah. So, I I guess at the end of the day, you're wrong. Plan your exit, work, invest in yourself. I think is my philosophy.
And maximize your savings rate.
Yep.
Find a way to either and maximize your savings rate could mean increase your earning capacity. If you say I work, I make 60,000 off my W-2 job, find a side hustle that makes you 10 grand a year and invest that 10 grand.
Savings rate is the one thing that pisses me off that no one talks about. If, like I said, if I had a sword to die on, it'd be savings rate. So, on that note, it's been fun.
Yeah, keep fighting for freedom.